The bottom line is fear on everybody's part. This is what creates this situation. On the side of families and friends or loved ones not believing you, it's more a case of they don't want to believe you because they fear what you're telling them. Nobody wants to see their loved one get sick. They just don't want to see that. Especially if you're a person in the family dynamic who is responsible for stuff. You should be honest with your family and your loved ones, and usually they're the ones you want to tell everything to because they're your sounding board. You know, they're the people that you tell everything to. So you come home and you're kind of freaked out. You sit down and you tell your friends and your loved ones, "Oh, the doctor says I have fibromyalgia and dystonia." And they're like, "Oh, what does that mean?" Well, we know you've been in pain for a while. We know that it seems to be crippling you. We know that it's affecting your job and it's affecting your family and it's affecting everything. You're scaring us, you know. But they don't say this because they don't want to admit that. No one wants to admit that. But the more you tell them, the more afraid they get. They're losing somebody. And what's always on their mind is death. That's what's always on their mind. So the more you bring home, the more you're scaring these people into thinking someday you ain't going to be here. I took a class at Mass General when I was in pain classes there. And part of the class was called Family Validation. And they brought in a family member that you picked, or two, that you thought were key people in your family dynamic. And you all sat with the counselor who was the head of the group. And everything went around the table, these questions that were really good questions. And the patient and the family member got to talk about it with a counselor in between to explain things. And I thought that was great. Then we had a second meeting, which was educational, where they did handouts and we read about pain and how it affects families and things like that. And then the counselor was able to talk to the family member and say, this might be a better way to approach it. So he would say to the patient, when you're talking about this, try to understand that you're scaring these people. So is there a way that you can bring this up in a milder way? Try not to look so distressed. Try not to have your fear come out. Try to take some emotion out of it, you know. Then he would say to the family members, I hope you understand that they come to you because they love you and you're close to them. And they need to tell somebody because they don't know what's going on. They're not wanting to scare you. Most of the time in a chronic pain situation, the doctors can handle this, and it's not usually a death situation. So you all have to get together, everybody has to get together and understand that it's a chronic situation. It's going to be around for a long time. As family members, we'd like to see you support the patient. Listen to them, understand them. Understand that they're going to go through some limits that they didn't have before. Try to put up with that, you know. But don't baby them. Don't treat them like they're crippled, you know what I mean? They're usually not. But you might have to work around their limits. And this is a discussion that everyone should have in the families and the friends and the loved ones with each other. They really should try to understand this. With families, the validation is fear. Fear of death, fear of losing their loved one, fear of losing the friendship they have with the loved one, and fear that the person in pain is not going to be there again for them to be the leader or to be the person to go to get things done, at least until the patient understands how to do this again and gets themselves back on track, you know. So this is kind of another cycle that the dynamic goes through.